G'day guys, welcome to today's tutorial video. We're going to be talking about the deadlift and we're going to go through absolutely everything you need to know about the deadlift in order for you to set yourself up correctly and then execute to perfection. So first point of call, what we need to know is that the reason why the deadlift is so hard to perfect is because it goes over so many joints, all right? If we just break this down ever so slightly, we have our ankle joints at play, our knee joints at play, our hip joints at play, obviously our spine, our lower back, our shoulder blades, our arms, our elbows, everything is within play when it comes to the deadlift, which is why it's so important to set yourself up correctly. So what better place to start than the bottom, and we'll work our way up to the top. With our feet, what we want to create is as much tension through the floor as possible with our feet. So in order to create some form of tension, we're actually going to try and create arches through our feet. Now the way we want to do that, and what we're trying to mimic, is a torque factor that is like a corkscrew going into a bottle. And we generate this through our hips. So this is external rotation. Now we want to create that same type of torque through the ground. So let's create our 3 points of contact first, then we're going to create our torque, or screwing our feet into the ground. Our 3 points of contact come from 3 different bones. They come from the bone that is in line with your big toe, the bone that is in line with your pinky toe, and also your heel. So how are we going to distinguish exactly where they are? What I want you to do is jump up onto your tippy toes like so. Try not to fall forward or back. Oh boy. Those bones that you are balancing on, they are points 1 and 2. So point 1, point 2. Now if we do the same but in reverse and we rock back onto our heels, that point that you can feel, that point you can feel on your heels, that is point 3. So we have 1, 2 and 3 of those points. Now when we're setting up, our feet position is tremendously important. What we know is that the shortest path for that bar to travel from the ground to us standing tall is with our feet directly underneath our shoulders, directly underneath our hips. And if you think about generating force as well, if we're generating all our force through our legs and our quads and pushing that down, well, we want that force to travel in a straight line. You see those who are doing sumo stance. Now, we'll talk about sumo stance in a different video. But when it comes to sumo stance, your force, so if you're generating force and you're pushing it through the ground there, sure, that bar has arguably less of a bar path to travel, but because your center of mass or your center of gravity is so far apart, so point 1, point 2, and you're trying to generate force through this point, you're probably not going to generate as much force as bringing your feet in nice and tight like this. This is probably the reason why, if you think about it, if we're doing a squat and we're in this position here versus a leg press, which is in this position here, 9 times out of 10 most people can generate more or push more load to a leg press, and that's because our force is traveling straight down and into the ground, traveling straight lines. Okay, so we know all about the force. So we want to make sure that our feet are set up directly underneath our shoulders when we come up to the barbell. We'll talk about setting up for the barbell in just a minute, but we're back on our feet. Now, external rotation, 3 points of contact. We have 1 and 2, we have 3, straight underneath our shoulders. Now we're going to create that screw-like fashion down into the ground, like a corkscrew. And this is generated through our hips, our knees, and obviously our feet. So what I'm looking to do is to create arches through my feet by transferring the weight from the midline of our foot to the external, to the outside of our foot. So a lot of people will find themselves in trouble with the deadlift because they are flat-footed, or they come down and their knees are on the inside, and they can't generate that force, so we start pulling through our back. Think of ourselves as a building. If our foundation is shit, then the rest of it's going to travel up and be pox as well. So we want to generate external rotation, tension through our glutes, start to generate some tension through our quads, and massively tension through our feet. So how are we going to do that? Well, we want to lock down points 1, 2, and 3. So pretend I put skewers through these points. They can't move. Now I'm going to twist my feet and transfer the weight to the outside of my feet, running from point 1 or 2, whichever one you want to call it, all the way down to our heel point. So our pinky toe point, all the way down to our heel bone point, and then point 1 or big toe is going to stay firm on the floor. So now we're creating external rotation through the feet. A great cue for that is to spread the floor. So pretend there's a line running straight through the middle of my feet, and these are 2 platforms. I want to push this apart, and you can see that my feet want to do that. So points 1, 2, and 3 can contact it, and I'm trying to spread the world apart like that. So that's the cue for our feet. So now we know what to do with our feet. What do we want to do with our knees? Well, we want to continue down this line, and the reason being is because when we bend down to pick up the bar, we want to allow room for our torso to get between our legs. So if we allow our knees to come out and down, notice how there's room for me to get between my legs, which will allow my body to stay up a little bit taller and drive upwards. Again, that force production. We want to push up. We don't want to push, or we don't want to be sort of hinge patterning, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Oh God, don't get me started on that. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Right. So, screwing our feet in, knees come out. Glutes are on. Whenever we push our knees out, our glutes come on. We're down. Shoulder blades back and down. So let's stabilize our shoulder blades. We know that this is a hinge pattern, but we're trying to keep ourselves up nice and tall. So there's a few cues that we use for this. Our shoulder blades back and down, or put your shoulder blades in your back pockets. That's number 1. Another one is create long arms. Push your arms all the way down the ground. That's number 2. Number 3 is jam your arms next to your armpits, or push your armpits towards the ground. I'm not sure if that's 3 or 4. Anyway, lost track. So again, you can see how this is all starting to build up all the way through our feet and our knees and our hips. So we're screwing in, which generates a tension and stability through our hips because we can feel our glutes coming on. Or with our feet, we're screwing into the ground, or we're spreading the floor apart. This is pushing our knees out, which is going to allow us to come up and down, generate force through our quads. Our hips are stable. Now we need to stabilize our spine, our shoulder blades, which can be done via our lats. Now, for those who don't know, lats are on the big muscle on the outside here. So the top portion of the deadlift, we want to be thinking about pulling our shoulder blades back and down, engaging the lats. The cue I use for most of my team or my clients is this. What we want to fight against with the deadlift is that you can see that when my arms are out like so, that I'm rounded off. My shoulders are nice and rounded, right? Now by pulling our shoulder blades back and down like this, you can see now how straight my back is, and I can't get out of that position. And that there is what I want you to set up with your deadlift, and that is the weight, pretend this is the bar and the weight is pulling me that way. Now when we go to execute this lift, we want to be tight and locked in here and pulling up through there, and you will not have any lower back issues. Where people find themselves in trouble, and that is when they push to the floor, they lose their back, and notice already I'm rounded through the top section of my back, and what else is going to then be rounded? Well, none other than my lower back. So you can see it's a chain effect. So if we can pull our shoulder blades back and down, chest up nice and tall, well, that's it when we're in this position, but chest up, back and down, we're going to be nice and safe. Now there is one more cue that we're going to use, and that is with a belt. Unfortunately I didn't bring my belt, but pretend that my shirt is the belt. Now what I want you to do with this is on the way down, when we pick up the bar, we're going to breathe against that belt. Or better yet, we're going to stabilize our core, which I hate saying that because God knows how to do that. Well, hopefully this will give you an idea as to how to go about this. So when we use a belt, I actually don't want you to use it as tight as you possibly can, because you become dependent upon it. What I want you to go and do is try and leave it so it's tight, or it's not tight, so that it is up against us nice and snugly, but it's not tight. We could probably put a finger in. Now the reason why we want to do that is because this is how you're going to engage your abs, and that you're going to take a big deep breath in. Oh, sorry, that was chest. Big belly breath in, so breathe in from your stomach and push against that belt and try and pop that belt open, right? So pretend the buckle's here, we're going to pop it open. When we do that, we're going to stabilize our abs, and if you couple that with our shoulder blades back and down, so from this position, shoulder blades back and down, big deep breath in, and push against the belt, all of a sudden, my body is rock solid and rigid. So then it all becomes about our legs and making sure that we're set up. So let's go through the exact setup process walking up to the bar. So your approach will start from behind the bar and making sure it's still. Right, from this position, we're already thinking about, okay, I want to lock up my back, I want it nice and tight and not going to fall forward like this. So already I'm thinking about reaching for the floor, my shoulder blades are back and down, and I'm trying to get what we call a mind to muscle connection with my lats. I'm trying to pull them down. Step one, already in this position. Step two, I'm coming up to the bar and I'm thinking, all right, I'll just make sure this is back. Coming up to the bar and I'm thinking, okay, I want to be directly underneath my shoulders. In fact, I probably want to be even a little bit closer. So I'm looking at where the bar is going to sit up. Now, with foot position and the bar, hopefully this works for me. Stay there. Right. What we're looking for in this position is that your foot, your foot is going to start in, the bar will line up with probably where you've tied your shoes and you've created the bow, or the midline of our foot. Now the midline of our foot is, if that's my foot there, we're probably aiming for about here, okay? So when I'm stepping up to the bar, I'm looking for that high point of the arch is another probably place to look for. To get this nice and even in the middle. And the reason for that is because we want to allow ourselves enough room to push forward with our knees, but we're going to keep our arms locked in nice and tight. Now we're thinking about biomechanics, and then we want to be able to drive straight up and down. Where people get themselves into trouble is that, yes, a deadlift can be a hinge pattern. Now a hinge pattern is the ability to take your hips back and touch whatever's behind you. You can see I'm acting like a hinge, right? And you'll load up your hamstrings. There'll be some people out there that are like, well, a deadlift is nothing but a hinge pattern, you shouldn't be engaging so much quads. We're trying to move weight, right? We're trying to move weight effectively and safely. So why not get the greatest part of the muscle that's going to generate the force involved? Also, if you actually do look at some research, majority of the muscle activation that occurs is through your quads. And it makes sense because, well, how else am I pushing through the ground? I'm not eccentrically pushing or pulling. I might pull from my erectors, so here, I might pull through my glutes. My hamstrings role is to extend flexion of the knee and extension of the hip. So maybe they push through, but your quads role is extension of the knee. That was flexion, by the way. Extension of the knee. So you're always going to get quad activation in this. Right, I've detoured here, but the point is, we want to set our feet up directly. Stay still. Stay still. Oh my God. The tradesman, whoever built this floor, can be fired. Stay there. Wow. Right, anyway. Oh my Lord, stay still. Right, finally got that sorted. Right, so our feet are going to be in line with the bar, screwing our feet in, knees coming out. From this position, I am reaching down for the bar. So again, we're setting up, reaching from this position, coming in, bar is in the line with the highest or the midline of my foot, My feet are screwing in and I'm trying to rip the world apart. From here, notice how my knees want to travel out. That's where I want them to go. So we're coming out. Now, back to the elbow joint. This is the only part that we haven't spoken about yet. Our elbows, well, we know that our lats originate in the middle of our back, and they insert actually onto the back of our tricep here. So, in order to get a better lat contraction and therefore steer clear from this position and stay nice and tall like this, we actually want to lock our elbows out like so. So these are like latches that are stiff. Don't bend. A lot of people get themselves in trouble when they're bending like this and we're losing force. So keep your arms nice and still and locked out. In fact, I want you to roll your elbows slightly towards, well, I'm facing you guys to the camera, but slightly away from your body so you can see that they're coming out like so. So again, we'll go again. Shoulder blades back and down. Walking up to the bar. Screwing our feet into the ground, allow our knees to come out. We're going to reach down for the bar. Our shoulder blades are going to be back and down. Our elbows rolling forward and looking ahead. Well, our elbows are looking forward towards you. Also with our head, look, you can have your head in flexion. A lot of people like to have their neck in extension. Sorry, not flexion, I always get those two confused. Extension and looking up because, well, anatomically we can, right? And I'm a bit of a believer that you'll go where your eyes go, right? However, for this point of call, we want to keep a nice neutral spine, which is, you can see that when I look ahead, shoulder blades back and down, my line of my body is nice and straight. If I look back like this, you can see that my head is now the thing that's relative to my body. So, or it's in flexion, so it's not neutral. Whatever works for you, do that. Shoulder blades back and down, walking up to the bar, screwing our feet in, knees come out. We come down. We are going to allow room for our knees to shoot forward. A lot of people will keep tall shins, which results in us looking like something like this if we have tall shins. Right? Now, if I push to the ground in this position here, look at my hips. Already they're what we call shooting with the hips. So in this position, we have tall shins and we're shooting with the hips. The only point that I can use, or the only part of my body I can use in this position is my lower back, and then it becomes a stiff-legged deadlift. This is where people can get themselves in trouble with their lower back as well. So, how do we combat this? Allow more room for your knees to shoot forward. So, knees come out, down, and allow them to shoot forward. Now, my ankle flexibility is not the greatest, but you can see already that I'm a lot taller. Now, when I drive and I shoot through my legs, my hips are going to come through all at once, okay? If I'm tall in the shins and I'm over the top of the bar, and I try and drive through my legs, already, bang, bang, hips are coming up, shooting up. There's only one point I can pull from, and that's my lower back and my hamstrings. So, again, you can see how complex this lift is because of the amount of joints that are involved and how the bar just keeps moving. Right, let's start. We're screwing our feet in. We're pushing the world apart, our knees are coming out. Our hips are going to be on because of the knees coming out. Glutes are nice and sturdy, we're nice and still. From here, we're going to reach down to the bar, roll our elbows out, face them forward. Now your head can go up or it can go down. It's from this position here, I'm going to allow my knees to shoot forward. Now when I do this, what's going to happen is that I'm going to create a great amount of tension through my legs, through my back, and through my feet in order to come up. As soon as I get into this position, I'm going to feel like a jack in the box. I'm going to want to spring up and out. So, we're not going to sit too long in this position. We're going to set ourselves up, screw our feet in, knees go out. Shoulder blades back and down, knees shooting forward, and already I want to pull this off. Pull it off the ground. The jack in the box effect is about to happen. So, lastly, let's go through it exactly. Shoulder blades back and down. Step up to the bar. Allow enough room between our shins and the bar for our knees to shoot forward. Screw our feet in, tear the world apart. Knees come out, shoulder blades back and down, reach for the floor. When you're ready, knees come out, and then just like a leg press, bang, through the floor, stand tall. Again, knees out, screw the feet into the ground, elbows falling forward, shoulder blades back and down, knees out, bang, shoulder blades, leg press to the floor. Again, so that cue there, the leg press to the floor, we don't want to be, again, pulling through our back. Before I was talking about shooting through the hips, right? What we don't want to occur is that the biggest issue I find with this exercise is that people think because it's a deadlift, it's a pull. Everyone's like, oh, are you doing deads on back day or doing it on leg day? Because of the pull factor, everyone thinks it's a big back exercise because they constantly load up their lower back. Right. I want you to think of this exercise now as a push. It's a push through the ground like a leg press. In fact, you can use a leg press to warm up this exercise. So, screw your feet in, knees out, shoulder blades back and down, elbows forward, and then push through the ground. As if this platform can go down. That's what I'm going to do with my legs. And guys, that there, after about 20 minutes of explanation, that there is how to execute a perfect deadlift. Now there is an acronym that I want you to remember. Step by step, rep by rep. And the acronym out of that is STEP. I want you to think that you must stabilize every one of these joints before, so S is stabilize, before you execute the lift. That's E, I know I've missed one, that's T, and T is tension. The tension will come naturally, like that jack in a box, so that's the tension I'm talking about. That will come naturally as we get into position. So again, knees out, I can feel the tension through my glutes, through my quads, shoulder blades back and down, knees out, that's my tension. All right, keep your tension on. So, step one, stabilize your joints. Joint 1, joint 2, joint 3, shoulder blades back and down, joint 4, abs, big deep breath in, breathe out, joint 5, neck, elbows, joint 6, neck, well you can stabilize that if you want it to look down the head, or you can have the back, it's up to you. Stabilize. Tension, again, jack in the box effect, knees out, that's all going to be a part of it. And number 3, execution. Your first lift, no matter how much effort you want to put into this, your first lift must look exactly like your last lift. You can see on the chain effect that if your feet go and collapse in, then your knees go, your hips go, and it all just works up the kinetic chain, and that's just your feet alone, let alone things like you're falling out of your back. When I lose my lats, I roll off, my abs switch off, my ass is off. Everything has a flow-on effect. So again, first rep must look like your last rep. That's E, execution. And then P for performance, track your performance. I got 60 kilos for 1 or 2. Okay, next week I'm going to try and get 60 kilos for 3, or I might get 62 kilos for 1. Track your performance after that time. Guys, I hope this helps you. I hope that your whole deadlift will change and that you feel the right areas switching on, and we take out your lower back. And yeah, so enjoy that, guys. Execute it. It will take time. Your body will be freaking right out at the start as to how to actually do all of this. Take your time, slow it right down. Use 5 kilo weights, I don't care. Okay, make sure that you get this pattern right first. Respect the pattern, and then go on and lift 300, 400, 500 kilos. Enjoy, guys. Take care.